Okay, we're back. This is the third part series, kind of filling in the gap here. And we're going to finish up by talking on what is happening in the Joe pipe. And this comes after having played with it for over the last 3 years. I got in at least 500 hours of hands-on testing, using many different configurations, stuff like that. And I've come to realize that the reason why, when you turn back the pressure, like when you actually have the flame out here, and when you turn back the air and the fuel, where it goes from the level 1 to a level 2, that it wants to come in, that the fire wants to be drawn back inside, and is it pressure that is drawing the vacuum back inside? No, obviously it's not. It has to be a negative pressure or a vacuum, or be in a low pressure area caused by the combustion of the flame. Maybe a low spin is being generated at the time, and so, or just a difference between hot and cold. Anyway, the flame is being drawn back in. And once you get the flame back here to producing a level 3 flame, the flame is actually have its own circuit and it's spinning. And so far, using propane, we can bring it to the red point or transition point of the of orange, or bright orange, going into the yellow state, which is around 1800, maybe more, degrees Fahrenheit. And but what is happening? If we got exhaust happening this way, this is the effect. Right? This is the cause. The vortexing is the cause of the exhaust going out the end. And so we can say that this area back in here, the green here, represents the vacuum, or the lowest pressure within the pipe. So you got a low pressure area, you have a high pressure area, and you have like a nexus point, and I believe this is where the level 3 is actually happening, is right at the nexus point. And being the main cause, producing both the pressure and the vacuum states. Now, if we were to add some steam to it, this vortex is going to speed up, and it's going to pull more energy into the tail of the vortex. Now, what am I saying? I'm saying that maybe it's possible to have energy to be condensed and to collapse in on itself, other than exploding. And I've seen this only a couple times where I actually saw the fire, the blue spinning ball of flame of the level 3 actually condense, back into the feed pipe here. At the time I was using a 3/8 feed pipe, and it collapsed to produce a bright blue like that, right? And then all of a sudden I heard this sound, like a jet taking off. It was all compressed within about a second or two of time. And the blue condensed from about 3/8 diameter down to a pinpoint. And if you can envision the head of a pin of a needle, that's how big the pinpoint of plasma was. And it didn't hurt my eyes at all. It was really something to see. And after it was all over, I left a trace of oxygen in its wake. It actually generated enough oxygen to sustain the transition from the blue state into plasma. So it actually reached a runaway state where the level 3 actually transitioned fully outside of the third state of matter. So we can see that on this side we have the third state reaction, the third state of matter, and this side is the fourth state of matter. And my theory is what I'm beginning to think. I do get this stuff by revelation knowledge, and it's like a knowing that's put inside you. That my theory or understanding at this point is that if we would increase the energy of the fuel, say by adding steam which converts to hydrogen, to where we're going to make this little twister a lot more active, right? And so it's going to create more thrust, and it's create more vacuum. Now what is happening? Could it be as the speed of the vortex increases, whereas the flame propagation rate of the level 3 flame, as it increases, is it converting more of the third state matter, or propane, into the fourth state? So we have a transition from the third state to the fourth state, and there are times where I've seen it happen instantaneous, but it would be nice to be able to have a controlled reaction here, to where you could increase the potential of the fuel, which would increase the potential of the spin that would cause the tail of the vortex, or the tornado, of this energy tornado, to stretch back closer toward the fourth state of matter. And that's what I'm seeing, that this energy vortex is connecting the third state of matter to the fourth state, and if you give it enough push, that it's going to actually convert all third state matter. It's going to bring it into the fourth state, where you're going to have a BTU, where the BTUs are going to go maybe a magnitude, maybe several magnitudes, maybe even 3 magnitudes over unity. We're talking about not 10 times, not 100 times, but we're talking 1,000 times more energy out. And you just compare a regular torch to that of a plasma cutter. Like the temperature of one is a couple thousand degrees, and the temperature of the other is 10 times that, 20, 30, 40,000 degrees on the plasma cutter. And that's what I'm seeing. I've already seen propane in the plasma form, and that it got so hot that the copper in the titanium test had a phase shift. The copper actually phase shifted into a higher state, the material itself, not the energy. And it didn't lose form, it didn't go into meltdown. And yet at the same time, the copper was affecting, in direct contact with the titanium, and causing the titanium to melt. And I'm not talking from what I've heard, I'm talking from what I've seen, right? And that's what I'm saying. And so we're beginning to understand more of what's actually happening on the internals of the Joe pipe. And understanding that is going to help in actually advancing the work and knowing how to apply it into practical form. And this also brings us to the place where about the grounds gas effect, right? If you increase the vortex of the flame, the vortex is going to become more endothermic. You're going to get no longer have a flame that's 60% endothermic reaction and say 40% exothermic. You're going to go into the full endothermic state, or maybe just a little bit under. You actually want to be just a bit under the melting point, because you don't want your stuff going in the meltdown. So if you can generate a sustained endothermic reaction, say around 2/3, 75–80% would be nice. That would bring you up into the somewhere up into the white zone on the